Hello, everyone. My name is Brent. I'm the host for Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies. Coming up next on the show, I will be actually hosting myself coming on to the show. And welcome, Brent. Thanks for coming on to your own show. Uh, this is going to be an interesting show. It's actually going to be very serious, folks. I at the beginning here, I just it's a joking around of introducing myself, but the reason why I'm doing that is joking around on that one part is because it's kind of humorous of introducing myself as my own guest. But with all seriousness, folks, there's been a lot that has happened in the last 4 months. A decision that I had made back in 2022, late 2022, carefully making a conscious decision about pulling the plug on Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies Twitter space. As you all know, that space is no longer there, and it won't be coming back to Twitter. There's a lot of why that happened. A lot of you know that it was because of technical issues, right? And I had explained this lots of times on different videos that I put out. What wasn't explained is that there was a lot of harassment that was going on behind the scenes. There was death threats, and I will be diving
directed towards you. We should clarify.
Directly. It was death threats directed toward me, and I want everyone to understand that these harassments and death threats were directed toward me personally, the host of Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies. And when I say they were directed to me, they were by phone calls. I was getting online messages. I'd randomly go through and check my direct messages on a daily basis, and I'd get some good comments about the show. Yeah, you're doing a great job. Thanks for advocating and bringing things forward. Talk about lived experience, and then I would get messages telling me to watch myself, to really keep an eye out on what reality is versus fiction. To me, I ignored it. I was like, okay, whatever. It's troll, right?
I mean, I remember you shared a couple of your DMs, some of the really offensive ones to me, and I mean, it was like you had people just straight up calling you like an idiot, and I mean, how is that being, people that call themselves advocates, and yet they're so willing and ready to just tear another advocate down and say you're an idiot, and
right.
That's not that's not nice, that's not healthy, that's not good in so many ways, right? And
yes, and those conversations escalated more and more over time. And I'm not going to look all the way back into the beginning of January of 2022, because that's when I originally launched the show.
Mm-hmm.
But ironically, at the beginning of January, that was my first guest, who ended up being my 100th guest on the 100th episode. So the beginning, and then on December 2nd was my 100th guest, was my first guest.
Yeah.
So I was really excited about that. I was energetic, and but in the back of my mind, I knew that these other issues were going on, and nobody knew. Right? I kept it very private.
That should have been a really celebratory moment.
It was,
and someone made a comment during that 100th episode, and we'll get into what was said.
Yes.
But I want to keep that under our hat until we talk about your show on Tuesday. But something was said on the 100th episode where as soon as it was said, I go, I know that Brent's show is over. As soon as it was said, I knew that, okay, your show is done. You have to move off of Twitter Spaces. We have to do something else. Your show is done. It's torpedoed. It's been, what was said was the kill shot, basically, that killed off your show. And the reason why, and again, I'll speak for you a little bit, and you can interrupt me.
Yeah.
But the reason why we're coming forward with this now, and Brent's coming forward with this now, is just a few days ago after our show with Rowan. Somebody posted a tweet and said that you, Brent, have broken everybody's hearts. Somebody posted a tweet and said Brent has broken everybody's hearts, and he's no longer no longer can be trusted as a trusted advocate, because he abandoned the disabled community. He abandoned Twitter Spaces, and he broke everybody's hearts. And this came from somebody that was directly responsible for torpedoing your show and for delivering the kill show. I mean, behind the scenes, he had a part in delivering the kill shot as well. And yet he's saying, that you broke everybody's hearts and you abandoned the community. But yet he was the one that was, breaking everybody's hearts. It wasn't you.
And the same individual had sent me some harassment messages, and I look back at that, and when I had the 100th episode going, I was so excited because I thought, maybe this is going to push things forward, and what had happened, all the death threats and harassment and everything that was going on. I think, okay, I'll deal with that, and it continued.
Yeah,
and it really blossomed.
It was a window. It was a window between the 100th episode, the 100th guest episode, that was December 2nd, and then you did the final Twitter Space. It was December 30th.
December 30th.
So all of that shit hitting the fan was between December 2nd and December 30th. That was when most of the shit hit the fan. And we can wrap up this little advertisement, but basically, when you did come to me about launching your show, you explained yourself really well. I was like you said, this is my vision for the show. And when you laid it out to me, it was very clear that it was going to be kind of a talk show podcast thing, where you're going to have guests on. The guests were going to be the highlight to talk about important issues. And I mean, you had already kind of lined up, even though you didn't have all the guests coming all at once. You had already kind of framed in your mind, these are the guests I want to have on, and they were all like VIP guests. You had Cheryl Hardcastle and somebody from the United Nations, the Rapporteur. Those were your first 5 or 6 guests. Whereas Peter Julian, Kim Pate, Lee Gazan. I mean, that's a pretty big list of very prominent VIP people. And so you were telling me all this is like, these are the people I've lined up. I want to have on the show. And so right away I knew really clearly, okay, this is going to be Brent's show. It's going to be a talk show. He's going to bring on like very key VIP movers and shakers, like politicians that are going, and he's going to have like very good discussions with very important people, and it's going to be great. And somewhere along the line, when you had things kind of transition over to the open mics, all of a sudden the open mics got more of a focus, and it was like almost people were like, well, the hell with the guests, let's get on with the open mic so we can trash the guests now.
Yeah.
And then you found out that people were starting to bash you too. So not only were they bashing your guests, they were bashing you, behind your back, and the whole thing was just really toxic, and it was just devolved into a big shit show. And but yeah, we can kind of leave it there, and we'll talk more about this on Tuesday. But now that we've relaunched the show again, it was kind of like a soft launch, and now everything's officially over. Everything's on YouTube now. One of the key things that I talked to you a lot about was, one of the things we want to tell the guests all the time, all the new guests that are coming on, is like, as soon as you leave the show's over.
That's right.
I said, as soon as we want to make perfectly clear to all the guests, as soon as the guest comes on, they're the star, and as soon as they leave, the show is done, and we pull the plug. The show is done.
Yep.
The broadcast is done. The live stream is over, and it's like, bye, go home. And there's no bitching and complaining afterwards. There's no platform to bitch and complain and trash the guest or to trash you, the host. There's none of that anymore, because we don't have time for that anymore.
Well, and there was a lot of discussions where people were trashing. They were saying, "Well, this is what I thought about the guest," and it was a narrative that no, they don't care and whatever. And it really was very negative because I got pushback from some of the people that were actually on the platform who witnessed and heard some of it. And it wasn't good. And of course some of the guests then said, "Hey, I'm not coming back." And that's not what it's about. It's having the guests come back and giving them the platform to speak. And I did say from day one, yes, it's like the show.
And we've already said a lot, but there's a lot more to say on Tuesday. And
there's a lot more.
Again, we're not kind of saying all this to expose people or to inflame the situation, to combust things further. It's not about that. It's about Brent having an opportunity to share his full truth now. And because, just recently, like I said, there was somebody came forward and said that you broke everybody's hearts. And that's a completely false narrative. And that needs to be put to bed, that the person that's spreading the false narrative was a key person in wanting to bring you down. So here they are, saying that they're this, they're one of these key pillar advocates, when really they're more busy with trying to tear other advocates down and not do anything constructive. They're more destructive, right?
Exactly. It's very unfortunate that people have to make those kind of comments because it's very hurtful, right? And I will be talking more about that on the next segment that I put out there.
Let's put the time. We haven't even talked about the timer.
Oh yes, yeah, exactly. The timer here is on Tuesday, and that is March
29.
What 20? Hang on, that would be
29. I think. Let's look.
28.
Is it
28?
Oh yeah, Tuesday. You said Tuesday, right?
Tuesday,
March the 28th.
Yep.
So let's say that again. We'll beep out the mistake we'll cross out the 29. It's actually 28.
That's the white out here. Eraser here. Yeah.
Eraser. We'll wipe it all out. So it's Tuesday, March 28th.
Tuesday, March 28th at 1:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and that will be 4:00 Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday, March 28th.
Yeah.
So tune in then, and you're going to hear me talking more in detail. I'm not going to dive really deep into it. I'm going to give the detail as best as I can, and I will apologize in advance if I tear up. I apologize on that.
It's going to be emotional. It's going to be emotional. It's going to be serious, but But I am gonna make sure that we do keep it to within an hour. I don't want to make this a big, long, drawn out thing. I just want to have you say your piece, and that it be out there and done, and people know the truth. Because there's still a lot of confusion out there as to why you actually left Twitter Spaces. It was for very valid reasons. It wasn't just for technical reasons. There was a lot of hate and a lot of violence going on behind the scenes directed towards you, and so that was actually the big reason why you left.
Yeah, people would say, "Well, yeah, but he put on a happy face. He was right, because the show goes on, right?" And not saying that things don't affect me behind the scenes, because they did, and I'm going to be talking more about that. People need to know the truth, what happened, and it was nothing about some of the other participants who came on. There were some really very intriguing people that come on, onto the asking Q&As, and I welcome them to join me onto the new forum here, definitely going forward. So subscribe to Neil's YouTube channel and stay up to date on the latest segments that are coming up.
Yeah, tune in on Tuesday. The time
Tuesday,
again?
March 28th, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
We'll
Thanks, everyone.
we'll see you there.